When I got to my parent-in-law's house, Thea was grinning from ear to ear. That smile looked very ominous.
The results just arrived actually, so hurry up and get your ass over here.
I wondered what he meant by results, and I had to talk to him in any case, so I followed him into the living room. As soon as I set foot in the other room, Theo slammed an envelope on the table. The room resonated with the bang of his apparent anger. What does this mean?
These are the results of the DNA test. This is definitive proof that you had an affair and a child with someone else. You better prepare yourself, Lauren, because this is going to cost you lots.
Still, with that huge grin of evil intent on his face, he sliced open the envelope with a box cutter, peered inside, and slowly pulled out a slip of paper. My name is Elena Smith. I'm 30 years old, and I'm a housewife. It's been 5 years since I married Theo, and as of now, I'm pregnant with my first child. Our plan was to quickly have children right after we got married, but that unfortunately turned out to be easier said than done. And 3 years after getting married, we started taking infertility treatment. Theo was very supportive of this idea, and thanks to his efforts over the past 2 years, combined with mine, I was able to get pregnant.
I'm so happy we're finally blessed with a child, honey.
I'm so happy I could cry. Thanks so much for doing your best, honey. Thanks to you, we'll finally have a child soon. The strange thing was that although he was saying he was happy out loud, his expression appeared to be a little melancholy. I didn't blame him. The fact that a child was coming into the world meant that he now had more pressure to work harder and provide us as much as he could for us. The baby grew quickly in my belly, and it only seemed like a few days had passed when I finally felt my first kick. And before I knew, it was already the final month before I would bear the baby into the world. I sometimes had labor pains, and we rushed to the hospital a couple times a week, but they always turned out to be false alarms. The baby wasn't ready just yet. The due date passed, and the baby still wasn't born. So, under the doctor's instructions, I took some labor stimulants and gave birth to our child. Our darling child, who endured some pain and trauma to come into the world. The first time, I beheld my baby squirming in the midwife's hands, crying, in that beautiful, angelic voice. The feeling of concern and dread for the worst all evaporated immediately, and the tears just wouldn't stop. It was such a relief to know our baby was born without any problems. After being hospitalized after giving birth, I relaxed and gathered up my physical strength again before I would leave the hospital a week later. Theo sometimes dropped by the hospital, but his visits were very occasional, and I was pretty lonely for a while. Unfortunately, my anemia was pretty bad during my recovery, and it looked like I needed more time to be allowed to leave the hospital. And even after I did, my spouts of dizziness and weakness came fairly regularly. I raised my child as I sometimes went to the hospital for routine checkups. And one day, I was feeling pretty lightheaded and was laying down on the sofa to rest and recover when Theo approached me. "Welcome home, honey. Our darling's right here in her crib."
Huh?
What did you say?
Just that... You know what I'm talking about.
What? No, I don't. I really don't understand what you're trying to say. He very quickly and very suddenly got angry and stormed away when I told him that. I felt too unwell to think about it, let alone do anything about it. So I just brushed it off, convincing myself he just had a bad day at work. I just went to sleep. My mother had actually come over while I was sleeping, and she was taking care of her granddaughter while I slept. "Thank you, Mom. Where's Theo?" "Theo? I haven't seen him actually. Maybe he didn't come home from work yet. I saw him earlier just before I conked out right here. I think he left the house to maybe clear his head or something. He wasn't in a good mood, but I thought he'd be back by now." Since he didn't come back yet, I started to grow worried, considering it was after sunset and almost time for dinner. Good thing I popped the chicken in the oven before I fell asleep. It should be ready just right now. I thought I should send him a message, asking him when he was coming back. But when I turned my phone on, I noticed he'd sent me a couple messages already, and the content shocked me to the core.
Come over to my parents' house this weekend. I want to discuss divorce.
It was just so sudden. I couldn't comprehend what the heck was going on. I sent him a response, but he didn't reply to it whatsoever. He never even read the message. Perhaps the shock was too overwhelming, but I still didn't feel top-notch, even after a very nice nap. I had to unwillingly reply on my mother a lot that night, and thereafter. I waited every day for Theo to come home, but he never did come back. My health recovered a fair bit, so I made sure to make my way to the bedroom before going to sleep. The door to the closet was open, and when I looked inside, I discovered that some items of clothing were missing. I realized that Leo had taken some of his clothes and temporarily moved back into his parents' house. What did he mean by talking about divorce? What in the world had I done to upset him? Did he think I was slacking off on the housework? He knew full well I had a rather serious case of anemia. I called my in-laws that weekend and told them I would be there soon before heading for my in-laws' house, and all they ever said in response was, "Got it." What on earth did I do to upset Mr. and Mrs. Bunsen, who were probably the sweetest people on the planet after my own parents? Gradually, my sadness towards the situation turned into rage. Theo knew I had just had his baby. Our baby. What the hell is he thinking? Wanting to just talk about divorce out of the blue. Come to think of it, I don't think he ever held his own beautiful daughter yet. I hoped to goodness he would give me a logical explanation, because, for the moment, I had absolutely no clue what this was about. What I did know was that when he told me he wanted to discuss divorce, he was serious. So, I thought it would be best if I brought my own parents too. I left my daughter in the trustworthy care of my older sister, who 3 children of her own. When I arrived at my parent-in-law's house, Theo was grinning from ear to ear. That smile looked very ominous.
The results just arrived, actually, so hurry up and get your ass over here.
I wondered what he meant by results, and I had to talk to him in any case, so I followed him into the living room. As soon as I set foot in the other room, Theo slammed an envelope on the table. The room resonated with bang of his apparent anger. What does this mean?
These are the results of the DNA test. This is definitive proof that you had an affair and a child with someone else. You better prepare yourself, woman, because this is going to cost you lots.
Still, with that huge grin of evil intent on his face, he sliced open the envelope with a box cutter, peered inside, and slowly pulled out a slip of paper. What are you talking about? An affair?
Oh, you seem pretty panicked.
I'm panicking because I don't understand why you would look into that.
Enough about that. Let's just take a look. Here's a solid evidence against you and your backstabbing affair.
As he said so, Theo opened the contents of the envelope. There were several documents on it, but the top one contained explanations on whether or not it was his child or not.
Well, would you look at that? That ankle biter is not my kid.
That is not your kid indeed. Well, maybe it is. Why don't you take a closer look at the results?
You see, I friggin' told you. That child isn't mine. Oh, wait. Huh? Why does it say that it is my kid? It's not my kid. No. This can't be. She didn't look like she could be my child when she was born.
I had no idea what Theo was hoping for. My in-laws were starting to attempt calming the agitated Theo, who looked so upset, I was afraid he would punch a hole in the wall. My parents and I had no idea what the hell was going on, so we just stood there, dumbfounded. When Theo calmed down, I asked him a couple obvious questions. What did you hope to achieve asking for a DNA test? I was never having an affair in the first place. Why the hell did you think I was? Any kind of clue you might have had that suggested I was is a stupid mistake.
Because when you got out of the hospital, I conducted a little test, and the result was that you looked really pale. I thought I knew then that something was up with you.
I was so confused. I didn't even know when this test happened. After talking for a bit, it turns out that while I was sleeping on the sofa, Theo said he was talking to me. I remember seeing him for a brief instant before he stormed off, but I was only half awake at that point, and was only hearing a small fraction of what he was actually saying. He was saying,
This kid doesn't look like her old man at all, huh? She looks nothing like me. That must mean you're together with another man, and that this is his child. You know what I'm talking about.
That was what he was saying verbatim. With my condition at the time, I couldn't hear him at all, and I couldn't discern what he was saying accordingly.
You frankly looked amazingly shocked. You look like a ghost with how pale you turned. That alone was enough to give me reason to suspect the worst.
But I asked you what you meant, because I just couldn't hear you at all. But you just stormed off with your own misguided interpretation of what I said.
That's because you were playing dumb. If you'd given me a better answer, it wouldn't have come to this.
Theo never took a step back and tried to look at the situation from another angle. Did he ever consider he was in the wrong for doubting his own wife so quickly? I was so pissed off by his remarks that my patience reached my limit and flew into a rage. Do you realize how much of a tough time I was going through when I was passed out on the couch when you were talking to me? I lost a lot of blood while I was giving birth to our beautiful daughter. You remember I had to stay hospitalized for a while longer because I was so anemic, don't you? The fact that I left the hospital never meant that the anemia had gone away completely. I just well enough got back home to take care of my husband and child. Even after I got out of the hospital, it was hard. It's normal for someone as anemic as that to look so pale.
But then, does that mean she is indeed my daughter?
Of course she's freaking yours, damn it! I swore a solemn oath I would love until the end of time when we got married, and I was sure as hell not gonna break that promise. Ever! I asked him why on earth would he suspect such a thing, and it seemed Theo was really looking forward to raising his own child, and he did some research on what kind of parenting he should be doing when his child was born. And as he progressed further in his research, he stumbled upon the expression, brood parasite. I don't understand what kind of research process you have to do to find such an expression, but there seem to be a lot of true stories about men's wives being impregnated by a third party and giving birth to a child that was never theirs in the first place. Theo became a bit paranoid when he learned about this, so much so that, when I was discharged from the hospital along with my daughter, he didn't see any similarities between him and his child, and led him to believe it wasn't his own at all. The man who wrote the true story online apparently conducted a DNA test, and the results showed that it really wasn't his child. At the end of the post was this piece of ridiculous advice.
After giving birth, the woman should not be feeling too well at least a month after leaving the hospital. So that's when it's easy to expose her. And the way to do that is a simple little test.
And that's exactly what Theo did. So that's why you conducted a little test on me when I was feeling pretty bad that day.
I just couldn't forget the fact that she looked nothing like me.
You've got to be kidding me. You can't be serious. Here, take a good look at this picture. I showed him a picture of our daughter, and in that picture was solid proof that she was my husband's child. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't notice the fact that her face looks almost exactly like my husband's? My parent-in-laws were so happy to see their grandchild for the first time, and when they looked at the screen on my cell phone, Mrs. Bunsen explained with joy, "Oh, Theo, darling, she looks just like you." It was a precious sight to behold. Grandparents smiling so brightly at the sight of their new granddaughter. Mr. Bunsen went to get the family album, and we all had a look. Lo and behold, baby Theo looked the spitting image of her.
We look so much alike. She's my child. My very own child.
Understand now? Are you convinced she's your legitimate daughter yet?
There's just no way. Oh my God. What have I done?
Theo collapsed to the floor, depressed and ashamed. His parents went on with their consoling. By this point, and especially because I now saw him like this with his parents, my love for him disappeared into the abyss, never to be brought back again. First of all, I don't know why my parent-in-laws were consoling Theo. Surely you agree, I should be the one who should be consoled, right? He took the liberty of deliberately misinterpreting my behavior when I fell ill, and convinced himself his daughter was never his. And now that we've confirmed it indeed is his daughter, why should he feel the need to be depressed? On the contrary, he should be overjoyed. I was so pissed off and I was done with his bullshit, so I went on to say, "So, about the divorce and the child support?"
Wait, what? Hold on. We confirmed she's my kid. We don't have to get divorced anymore. This is great news.
Hell no. You wrongly suspected someone of foul play with little to no evidence supporting your claim, and you can't change the past. That happened. Just now. And what's with the, "we don't have to get a divorce anymore"? Don't you realize how much pain you just caused me? I don't know if it was because you believed she wasn't your child, but that doesn't change the fact that you ignored my child when she was crying. I'm not going to be that kind of person.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I really regret what I did. Please forgive me.
Theo was down on his knees before me. My in-laws got down on their knees too, and all three of them touched their foreheads to the floor and never got back up. I was pretty tired by this point, and it was becoming such a pain in the ass. So, all I said in response was, "Give me some time to think about it." Before leaving the house, my parents comforted me in the car on the way home. I was just so goddamn tired. And there was something else that was bothering me, and that was none other than the fact that Theo was grinning at me as he falsely accused me of bearing the child of someone else. As I previously mentioned, when the child of that was suspected to have been that of someone else's turned out to be their own, a normal human being would have been over the moon, and yet Theo was clearly depressed. Normally, any husband would be overjoyed if his wife hadn't been unfaithful to him. I went to a detective agency to find out what I could about Theo, and the evidence against him, having a legitimate affair, came rolling in more quickly than an ATM counting hundreds of bills. Theo was having an affair with his ex-girlfriend. He had only one ex-girlfriend, and because he once showed me a picture of a beautiful woman, as he told me stories about her, I recognized her face right away. I was now sure that Theo thought I was responsible for destroying the marriage if he obtained proof I was cheating on him, and also, I thought he was going to divorce me and get compensation, and he was later going to marry the woman whom he's having an affair with. How could he ever think it could be so easy? I'm sure he was happy that this plan would work when he discovered me unwell and all pale in the face. Well, too bad, darling, because all you ever did was digging your own grave. I took the documents the detective agency gave me and made my way to my parent-in-law's house.
What frickin' took you so long? Do you realize how long you made me wait for your stupid decision?
Why in the world was he angry? Why the heck was he trying to condescend me, scold me, when he was the one who wrongly suspected me of having an affair? You really don't seem to understand your position, do you, sir? Looks like the only way I can make you see sense is by giving you a firm punishment for your terrible mistakes.
Miss Alina, I suppose you've come to the conclusion you won't be divorcing my son. That must be your final decision, considering we've waited so long.
I'm sorry, Mr. Benson. I haven't changed my mind about divorcing Theo.
But why?
Theo truly regrets what he did, dear. He's very sorry for what he did. I must ask you to forgive him.
Even at home, there's been times when we've all cried together because we've wanted to see our darling Selena.
Is that so? And then Theo erupted into a tantrum.
You kept us waiting for so friggin' long. How could you still want a divorce? You're a housewife. How do you expect to raise a child all on your own? You can't even buy a simple bottle of water from a vending machine without me giving you a coin beforehand.
How could this man be so bossy, so consenting, so arrogant? And he was the one having an affair. In any case, I really don't understand how I ever fell in love with this idiot. Why don't you want a divorce? Is it because there's going to be some arrangements with money?
Money? It has nothing to do with that bullshit. This is serious. She's my legitimate daughter, and I want to take care of her.
Theo is Selena's father. Of course he's thinking about his darling daughter, not to mention the fact that we haven't held our own grandchild yet. My, these people, if you can ever call them that, never cease to amaze me with how stupid they are. Even now, my mother-in-law is about to cry while she pleads with me. I decided to cut to the chase. I calmly said, "Well, I believe a look at what I brought you will help clear things up a bit." I went on to lay out on the table all the contents of the envelope from the detective agency, there was a picture of Theo and his ex-girlfriend going into a hotel, another picture of them entering her house. When my parent-in-law saw the photographs, they were left in speechless shock. Their eyes are wide and their hands were trembling. This is conclusive. It's proof of Theo's affair with another woman. I must ask you now, do you still think I shouldn't divorce him? As I asked this question to my parent-in-laws, I noticed my husband's face getting paler and paler. This definitely means he's been lying to me for a long time, doesn't it? The lie started long before he ever suspected I was up to something unfaithful. So when he suspected I was having an affair, he found it more convenient than it wasn't his child, I suppose. But since I never had any affair whatsoever, you panicked and told me to hurry, that you didn't want a divorce. Of course you did. Who wouldn't, after all? I mean, even if we did get divorced and end up with the girl you were cheating on me with, you'd still have to pay child support.
No, I'm done with this girl. We broke up already.
But this was taken 2 days ago, and you still think you can convince me you're broken up? That aside, though, the fact that you said you broke up with her is an outright confession that you really were together with her. Are you alright, sir? I must have hit the nail on the head, for his face turned brilliantly pale. It was a hysterical sight, and I had to take a deep breath to prevent myself from laughing. Your face reveals more than you can ever say to me, sir. It's the face of a man who knows he was caught red-handed. I can't go on being with you anymore. I need you to sign the divorce papers, please. I don't think we're going to get anywhere just by talking here. I'm going to have to leave the rest of the negotiations up to my lawyer. With his help, I'm sure the discussions about alimony and child support will go very smoothly. By this point, my parent-in-laws were down on their knees, apologizing and begging for mercy, but that was never going to make any difference. Theo is 100% to blame, after all. I bowed down in farewell and left my parent-in-law's house, signed divorce documents in hand, and a small smile on my face. After that, our divorce was finalized without any problems. Theo and the woman whom he cheated on me with filed for alimony. I was able to get a substantial amount, and I obtained a monthly change to Theo for child support. Since the incident, Theo's been getting a lot of cold shoulder from colleagues at his job. That was because he told them that I was bearing someone else's baby for sure, that I was cheating on him. They seemed to be very supportive of him and rooted for him to serve justice. However, I personally sent an official letter to his job, and soon thereafter, they found out that Theo had been lying to them about my unfaithfulness. That seemed to lead his colleagues into distrusting him. By the way, I heard the story from an acquaintance who works at the same company as Theo, so I sued him again. This time, for defamation of character, and demanded another large sum of alimony. Theo is now up to his ears in debt. The woman whom he was having an affair with also quit her job. I don't know how she could have misunderstood anything about what was going on, but she stormed into my house and said, "My life is a wreck. It's all your fault." She was making a huge fuss about what was clearly her own fault. I called the police and had her taken away. That eventually caused her to be fired from her job, and as a last resort, she ran to Theo for help and support. Theo's family cut him off soon after the divorce was finalized, and all he had left was a lot of debt and his partner in unfaithfulness. Because of his debt, he couldn't quit his job, and now he's working at a company he doesn't feel comfortable in. As for me, I'm back in my parents' home, raising my daughter with their help. My older brother, along with my older sister, also has children, so I'm raising my daughter with so many people to teach me. I feel like my darling Selena's growing up faster and faster as she plays with my brother's kids, who are really her cousins. I can't wait to see what kind of child she will become, and I will hope I can raise her well to become a beautiful, independent woman that deserves a happy life.